Kidnapped, walking the scene with you in outfits from the 90s. So keen, the VHS Club, they're the talk of the town. Breaking it down, spreading nostalgia all around. Moving and grooving to the synth-pop sound. Their insight is so fresh, painting pictures profound. From Pulp Fiction to Clueless, they know it all. The genuine love for movies stands tall. Unfolding memories on that VHS screen, talking about classics like you've never seen. Katie with her charm, Matt with that wit. Together they make the VHS Club legit.
Welcome back to the VHS Club. Hello, Nat. Hello, Josh. Welcome.
Hey, it's good to be here.
It's so good to be back again. We missed 1 week because humidity, and we missed last week because I was on vacation, and so now we are officially back. And hey, shout out to Val who's hanging out with us. Val, I thought you were still overseas, so welcome back if you are back or if you're overseas. We're talking Batman Returns today, which I am so excited that you chose this one, Josh, because like rewatching OG Batman, I know not like 1960s Batman, but watching 90s Batman has been on my list for a very long time. On my personal, not even the VHS Club list, like my personal list for the longest time. So this was just a pure joy.
Oh, I even watched it on VHS last night. For the authenticity of it, because I'm like, if I'm going to be on the VHS Club podcast, I'm going to watch it on VHS. Like, I have no other choice.
I don't think I've seen this one in a good 10 years at this point, so it was a fun rewatch.
It was a really fun rewatch.
Been about 6 months for me because I rewatch movies way too often.
It's the best place to live in. I feel like my answers now to most common questions are just no. They're like, have you seen XYZ popular television show? And I'm like, no. They're like, this movie. I'm like, also no. Have no idea what you're talking about. I'm like, but I did just watch Batman Returns. Does that count?
Exactly. Like,
a 35-year-old movie.
Yeah. Because wow. So yeah, I've got lots of notes on this movie, so
buckle up, friends. There were some really fun facts on this one too, but before we get too into this, huge shout out to our live studio audience who are hanging out with us tonight. We pulled Josh from the studio audience here into the episode, so now we're one short in the studio, but we have
it's
Paul
weird being on
and
this
Val.
side of things.
We have Paul and Val joining us, so shout out to them. And if you want to be part of our live studio audience, we record most Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern, over on YouTube. And you can always find it by going to thevhsclubpod.com. But tonight, we're going to have Nat go through our breakdown of what Batman Returns is about. Other than, Nat, don't you dare say Batman is back, because that doesn't count. You have to dive a little deeper.
Thanks for taking my punchline.
I knew it. I knew you were coming from that one.
So we're back in Gotham City. Is that okay?
Sure, yeah. It's 1992 now, so we're officially into the 90s with this one. Yeah.
Went from 89 to 92. We are back in Gotham City. Everything seems calm. There's only sort of rumblings of a penguin man living in the sewers, and some occasional circus crooks that seem to appear, but Batman seems to have under control.
Mm-hmm.
We're introduced to three new characters. We're introduced to the Penguin, Oswald. What's his last name? Pennyworth.
Cobblepot.
I always want to say Cumberbatch. This is the problem with my.
Pennyworth is
you're
Alfred.
here, Josh.
Last name.
Right. That's somebody's last name. So we're introduced to the Penguin. We're introduced to Selina, who is an administrative assistant, or just a secretary, as she says. And we're introduced to Max, sort of some corporate douchebag played by Christopher Walken, who
Played wonderfully by Christopher Walken.
Played wonderfully by
like,
Christopher
I don't...
Walken.
For me, I was like, the hair, though. What was wrong with his wig and why? Regardless. So Batman is introduced to these three characters. He sort of has a crush on Selina, who's played by Michelle Pfeiffer, and we're still in Keaton Batman era. We have Max, played by Christopher Walken, who is the evil boss and becomes Bruce Wayne's sort of nemesis because Bruce Wayne doesn't want to partner with him in business. And then we have the Penguin, who is a disfigured human-esque man.
Penguin man. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Whose parents, when they gave birth to him, the mother screamed in absolute terror when she beheld her baby. They locked him in a cage. He killed their cat, so they threw him in the sewer.
Moses style. They were just like gone over it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was Paul Rubens playing Penguin's dad.
Yes.
Oh, was it? I didn't.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm ashamed to say I didn't even know. I mean, we're all surprised. I didn't notice, and we're not surprised.
I think he's uncredited because I didn't see his name pop up in the end credits. But yeah, that was Paul Rubens.
Crazy.
Yeah, Pee Wee Herman he ended up not being a great person, even though he was a great comedian.
No. We're gonna just,
but we don't need to talk about that.
Yeah, we'll just pretend. We live in the 90s. So we're living in the 90s.
This was back when he was still really funny. And super cool. So he so Batman has his nemesis in Max, or Bruce, I should say, has his nemesis in Max. Batman finds a nemesis in the circus gang and the Penguin, and then Max ends up killing his secretary Selina by throwing her out a window, but she seems to have 9 lives and becomes Catwoman. She was okay. She didn't die, or at least she used one of her lives. And what's interesting I found about her character is she's introduced as sort of extremely intelligent, but kind of kerfuffled, kind of
just awkward,
unhinged a little.
Yeah, she's a little unhinged.
A little unhinged. Even like before she died, her human self was a lot more subtle and a lot more internal. You can see she gets mad at herself and she leaves herself voicemails, and anyway, so she's a little unhinged. And then when she becomes Catwoman, she just decides Batman, who had previously saved her human life, is her nemesis for no other reason than she just wanted to be bad, and he's a bit of a moral enforcer most of the time. And she's like, but I don't want morals. So, and that's the movie.
I think I would put moral enforcer a little loosely when it came to Batman. Because beginning of the movie with the Batmobile there, he burned up the fire breather who was burning stuff in a toy store. Yeah. And I
think that's kind of, for me, one of my takeaways is that was sort of that was the point of this movie, was that Batman is a hero but also an anti-hero, where he picks and chooses how, like, what spectrum of good and evil he's on. He picks and chooses who he decides, like, he is a vigilante, right? Like, he's not he does work with the police, but not always in a legal fashion, you know, like he doesn't arrest people, he just goes and flat out murders bad guys.
This was where he was in the comics at this time too. He was unofficially working with the police, mostly just with Commissioner Gordon, because nobody else really trusted him or anything. So
I mean, I don't really trust him as a viewer. Like, you're watching him, you're kind of like, I don't know exactly what he's gonna do. No. I did love Selina's, like, I will say, like, her, I guess, transition into Catwoman, it is interesting because there was a moment where I was like, why does she hate Batman so much? But then there was also a few moments, particularly when she saves the life of the other woman, and then she has this in her debut, and she has this line where she's basically like almost angry at the other woman for not like protecting herself better. It was like, you know, you can't just be standing around waiting for Batman to save you. And I was like, oh, maybe that's why, like, that in like her kind of breaking psychosis, you know, craziness, she's kind of like, we can stand it. It's sort of feminism-y, like it's like we can stand up for ourselves or learn to stand up for yourself. Kind of
but like
vibe.
There's also that after their first fight when she lands in the truck with all the sand and everything.
Oh yeah, the cat litter.
That, that's where I kind of saw her break from, you know, okay, no, I just want to kick Batman's ass now.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, he tossed her in a giant litter box essentially. So it was like she did laugh at it, but she was also like insult to injury. So
she carries this movie for me. I mean, and part of it is actually, I think, credit to Michael Keaton, who apparently removed almost all of his dialogue from this movie. Like, if you actually pay attention, he has very few lines in this movie. He's just like standing there silently. He's barely in it. But her lines are all like witty, like punchy, you know, tongue-in-cheek quips that kind of come across. And then I mean, she's probably the strongest character in this movie, and in many ways, like certainly the most interesting character. So I think she did an absolutely amazing job. And I was reading, I don't know if you guys saw this, but she had 60 different costumes because they basically put the costume on her and then like vacuum sealed her into it. And if she stayed too long in the costume, she would just straight up pass out. So they would cut the costume off of her and then put another one on. It was just like, so the amount of like physical harm that she went through. I mean, I know we talked about this last time with Michael Keaton in the Batman costume, but I was like, holy cow, just holy cat. she went through a lot to do this role. So it was props to her for pulling it off.
And every time you see her costume, there's a little bit of it torn by the time she's done fighting Batman.
Like her hair is like all out at the end.
Because she made the costume herself in like within the context of the movie. So when they made the costume for the movie, they were just like, let's just make it so it looks homemade and not like studio made.
That was Nat's beef, actually. She was like, where did she get that?
The character Selena has this like bubblegum pink apartment, which iconic in itself. But after she dies and comes back to life, she goes to this apartment and she's very dazed. Obviously, she had a bit of a brain trauma, you know, falling from like, I don't know, a 20-story building and like cracking her head. So she's like super out of it and she's going around and she's listening. She's doing her regular routine, but kind of almost like in a survival mode where she's just doing the actions, but not consciously doing them. And so she comes in, she says, honey, I'm home. Oh, haha, I'm single. Hello, cat, feeds the cat. Who were you sleeping around with? She goes through her whole little thing that she had previously done. And then she like clicks her answering machine. She hears from her mom, advertisers, and she just loses it. And she snaps because of her, like she's snapping out of her mundane life. But then she randomly, in her completely pink apartment, has a can of black spray paint and like a bolt of black latex.
I mean, maybe, you know, she was like planning for later, maybe a Halloween costume. Maybe. It was.
She seems like the kind of person pre-first death that she would have gone as a secretary for Halloween.
Probably
being a secretary. But I just thought it was funny. I'm like, that was the one thing where I was like, she
wait,
unlikely would have this. I wonder if there was a scene where she went and like stole it, like ransacked some stores and stole it just for the sake of doing
Yeah,
it.
maybe.
It was cut.
I didn't watch any of the deleted scenes on the Blu-ray
Oh, yeah, I didn't
because
either.
obviously I watched it on
On
VHS.
VHS, yeah.
So I don't know if I don't remember if there's a deleted scene that shows where she got that bolt from, but
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't really matter.
It doesn't really
No.
matter.
But that was one thing that really, that
Yeah.
Christopher Walken's toupee really stood out
Yeah.
in this.
I
That wig was wild.
I had to laugh a little bit about the toupee because I did read a fact that basically said that Tim Burton didn't want to hire Christopher Walken because he was afraid of him, which same.
Yeah.
but
yeah.
but so I was like, I wonder if Tim Burton made him wear that weird wig because he was just like, I just
make him
need
less
you
scary?
to look less scary to me. Like that is what I would do because he did. He looked like, and I wonder what you both think of this actually. In rewatching this, and I admittedly, and you can all come after me if you want, but Nat and I are like not big fans of the newer Batman, specifically the
Don't
like.
drag me down with you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Nat's hiding in the shadows. I'm gonna drag you down with me. I'm not a big fan of like Batman Begins and like those that generation of movies.
Yeah.
The Nolan ones.
And I
I didn't
think
like
that-
those comics either, in all fairness. So it's nothing against
Yeah.
the actors or filmmakers. I just
It
didn't
wasn't your
like
vibe.
Dark Knight.
Yeah.
period.
But in rewatching this, there is a line that Tim Burton is actually, in my opinion, brilliant with, where it's scary, but it's also really like absurd, and so it
Yeah.
feels less scary. And I almost feel like the wig kind of plays into that, where like you're looking at this guy and he's like literally shoved his assistant out a window, like he's like a monster, but then he's also kind of weird looking and weird, and like the wig is like askew, and
He's
cartoonish.
cartoonish.
He's cartoonish, and it's the same way with Penguin. It's the same way with Catwoman. Like they are extremes, and they're cartoonish, and they're crazy, but like they're not hyper realistic, and that almost makes them in some ways scarier, but also makes the movie more approachable. And I love that. Like I wish that Burton had done all of them, because I think that
Okay, so
that's the magic, like in my mind.
Here's why that is, though. It's a Tim Burton movie in the 90s.
Yeah.
So
Beetlejuicy.
what did he usually do?
Which is not a 90s, but still, it's Beetlejuice. Anyway.
Beetlejuice in the 80s.
Yeah.
And then Batman 89 right after that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I found that his use of the almost animated, exaggerated, campy, cartoonish set, but it was very dark. So it's like they had this amusement park, but it was all run down and rotting. And then they had a zoo that was run down and rotting. They had these in their like Rockefeller Center, because it's basically just like Gotham is like a fictional New York, right? So it's like, at the Rockefeller Center where they have the statues at Christmas and the Christmas tree, but the statues were like exaggerated in how big they were, and they were cartoonish like little men, but in this dark granite stone. And I feel like his use of that contrast is what created this atmosphere and what made the movie a lot darker and more intense as an audience viewer. Like the emotions that you got from it were almost more exaggerated because of this sort of cartoon versus like very darkness.
Yeah. And I mean, I was 6 years old when I saw this movie for the first time.
That's awesome that you remember that.
That's not a great age to see this movie.
Yeah, probably too young, but that's okay.
But see, here's the thing. It wasn't a theater watch. It wasn't even at home. I was in the hospital, and my roommate asked his mom to put it on for us.
You're like, well, that guy's mom said it was okay, so it should be fine. Yeah.
Exactly. And like I had just been introduced to Batman through the 1966 TV series at the time too. So seeing this different version of the character, I hadn't even read any of the comics yet.
Would have been shocking. Yeah.
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 Plus the Penguin bit the nose of a guy named Josh. So
I didn't know the guy's name was Josh. I'm sorry. It's I do. Even when I was a kid, I remember being really uncomfortable with the Penguin because he was so dirty and he was like always salivating, but his like saliva was black, which was so crazy. Because I'm like, isn't he supposed to be like he was born of human parents. Nothing happened to him, you know, like he was born like this. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And then when he bit the guy's nose off, I actually didn't find that the grossest thing he did in the movie.
No.
For me, it was when
it's all of his comments for me. He's like just so like skeezy. There's a better word, but you're just like it's hypersexualized. Yeah. Creepy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so is Catwoman. She was also hypersexualized.
Yeah, but he's worse. Maybe that's like sexist.
But even
to say,
the banter and with Batman and like it was the whole movie in itself had a lot more sexual content, which is why it's funny. Katie was saying she could only find positive reviews of the movie, but I'm like, I definitely remember like it did not get positive reviews because the first one went from like it was terrifying, but kids could still watch it to this. Kids could not watch this.
It's so funny. I'm props to you both. I like my memory gets worse the older I get, and I cannot at all remember when I originally saw this. I probably was older because my parents were certainly more strict, I think, than most. But I like in my mind before rewatching both the previous Batman, the 1989 Batman, and then this one, I had this vision in my mind of this series of Batman movies as being like campy and like not super well made. And I think it's because when I went to go see Batman Begins and those ones, everyone was going on about like how like dark and serious and like super well produced those were. In my mind, I created this comparison based purely on like very old faulty memories that like that this series of movies were just like not well done and kind of like silly and ridiculous. And they're not really like they really aren't overly campy. I think they do ride that line of just being more absurd and like they lean into like the Batman characters are also weird. Like the fact that there is a character who is like half penguin, half human is not normal. No. So like,
or like Joker falls in a vat of toxins.
Yeah. So
and then decides to poison everybody. Like it's
See,
I like that Burton did these. Yeah.
These movies understood they were comic book based movies.
Yes.
So they leaned into that. Yeah. Whereas the Nolan movies are almost embarrassed to be comic book based movies.
That's exactly it. That's how it feels to me, is that they are trying to be like more kind of pure works of art that where they're almost trying to be, and they're not, but it's like on that line of like Oscar movies where it's like they're just like brilliantly beautifully made, and they are, but I think in doing that they get so far away from the like not the fun but the like ridiculousness of some of these comic book stories where they are like absurd and crazy and escapism like in so many ways. So
and plus with these movies too, you have the sets, right? They were all done on stage. There was no like location shooting.
Exactly.
And there was no CGI and
there's no CGI. There's models. There's like partly real penguins, but also
there were real they spent $1 million in penguins on this movie, and that blows my mind. Like I was like, what? How did you?
But then they also had animatronic puppet penguins as well. For the actual like firing rockets part.
What?
I don't think that we're allowed to strap rockets onto penguins.
No.
And plus the penguins at the end that bury the penguin's body in the water, they're the puppets as well.
We have Adam hanging out with us in the live chat. Shout out to Adam, who says that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles '89 is still a favorite. Yeah, like there's something just, I mean, this whole show is all nostalgic,
like,
but
I said T2, like it's not Terminator 2, but I mean Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 with Vanilla Ice, also amazing. So for me, the grossest part was when Max, he's colluding now with the Penguin, and he goes to see him, and he wants him to run for mayor. So it's a good way for Max to just murder the mayor. He'll get the crooks and the carnies to murder the mayor and have this figurehead of a penguin that he feels he can control.
Exactly.
So he has this fish, this gutted fish that he gives to him to eat. And I was like, my immediate thought today watching the movie, I was like, oh, thank God we don't see him eating the fish 5 seconds later. You see him eating the fish. I'm like, oh, man, Tim Burton. That's so gross. That was the grossest thing. So when he bit the guy's nose off 5 seconds after that, I was like,
You were
like,
whatever.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't bite the nose off. It just bled a
No.
little.
Yeah. But
Instead of
as a
fish guts
6-year-old,
flying
to me,
everywhere.
it looked like he bit it off.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I
Yeah.
watched it on DVD that I actually realized that no, he didn't bite the nose off. He just bit it.
Yeah. I mean, I still, even as an adult watching this earlier today, was like, oh no. When he bit the nose. And I think partially because it is so like over the top gross. Like,
Yeah.
and it's the same thing that, as you were saying earlier, like his like the black saliva, the like,
Yeah.
you know, Uncle Fester like rings around his eyes, like
Yeah.
And just how dirty he was.
so how how gross he is. I mean, Danny DeVito plays this too. Like, these actors, I just with these roles, and like they all just nailed it. Like, there's not a single actor in this where I'm like, oh, you dropped the ball here. Like, all of them did such a fantastic job.
On the Blu-ray bonus features, Michael Keaton said that he approached Batman in this movie as if it was his first time playing it.
Mm.
And it felt more authentic that way, because initially he tried to play it as, I'm back as Batman, I'm doing this again.
Yeah.
And it didn't work.
Yeah.
So he's like, okay, no, I have to approach this as, I'm playing this character for the first time. And then it worked.
Yeah.
I definitely got the sense that with these 3 new characters that he's confronted with, like, it seems like he's been Batman for a while. He has a whole bat signal relay system set up. Like, it seems that he's comfortable as Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he's also now not running off for every little thing. He's not patrolling the streets like he was in the first movie.
Yeah.
It seems almost like he's more picking and choosing, but then when confronted with these 3 different characters, he seems to also be confronted with himself. Like, how much, like, what's my moral compass? Like, can I do this with a moral compass? Like, Max is kind of like more of the Bruce Wayne.
He's like an evil Bruce
But
Wayne.
like, if Bruce Wayne went off the deep end, and then like if he really just got more greedy, you know, and then Selena is like what he would be like if he kind of just really decided to lean into picking and choosing what and when he felt like was right and wrong. And then Penguin is if he was just like a pure villain. So I don't know if I'm reading too much into this, but I have faith that Tim Burton was trying to show us this.
He relates to Penguin, like in the initial, like seeing, like Penguin almost starts off. I mean, I guess all of the bad guys are like this, right? Where they have this side to them where you're like, oh, maybe they're just like a weird good guy. Like, like he starts off and he's like, I'm just looking for my parents. And you're like, yeah, you should do that.
He also,
they shouldn't just throw you over into a river.
His parents shouldn't have thrown him in the sewer, but he did eat the cat at Christmas. So I'm like, I understand why his parents were weird.
But Bruce has that moment though, watching where he said, you know, where he like says out loud that like you can see that he's relating to him on some level as being an orphan, as feeling like abandoned, as feeling alone or feeling different. So I think you're right, Nat, in that like he does kind of see himself in all these different characters. And I was really shocked. I didn't remember this from watching it initially, but at the end of this movie, he reveals himself as Batman to like everyone. He's just like pulls his mask off. Yeah. Well, like, hey,
I mean Penguin, Selena, and Max.
Yeah.
2 of which are presumed dead. Not Selena, because she only went through 7 lines, she said. So
she's got a couple more. No, I think technically 8, because she says 7 and then she electrocutes herself to get
that
him.
Was 7.
That was 7. I guess. Yeah. So
yeah, but no, I think that's interesting, and I think I love the scene where Batman is
giving nightmares of black saliva to everyone. We're sorry. Imagine, if you will, black saliva, and then just go from there.
Oozing out of your mouth. The scene where Bruce Wayne goes to the ball with Selena, so they're both not in their hero get-ups, their costumes. They're there as themselves.
Yeah.
And she's very clearly cracking, and a normal person would be like, oh, she's insane. Let's just, she's hot, not that hot, like walk away. But he holds on to her.
Yeah.
And it's like he's holding on to it because he's almost, I couldn't tell if he was more worried for her or for himself about his like grip on sanity or her grip on sanity. And it's funny because as he's holding on to her while she's going insane and they kiss, and she's like, says something about something is deadly, and he's like, a kiss can be just as deadly.
Yeah.
And that's when she starts grabbing onto her humanity as he's grabbing onto her insanity. It was, I love that scene.
Yeah.
So yeah, and she saves him because she's like, she was just fully going to kill him because he was Bruce Wayne. She didn't even know he was Batman at the time. She's like, I'm going to put you on the dance floor right here where it's going to explode and everybody dies. And then she's like, wait, no, come with me. And it's like, she saved him in the last second. But yeah,
and she's just like, when she realizes he's Batman, she's like, oh, does that mean we have to fight now?
Just like my human side wants a boyfriend, my cat side just likes to knock things off shelves.
she's just so, I don't know, she's wonderfully strange. You would never want to spend time with her in real life, but watching her is incredible. It's just just great.
And at the same time, Bruce is also, he seems more out in the open as Bruce Wayne in this movie than he was last time.
Yeah.
Like, he's going to meetings with, unfortunately, with Max Schreck.
Yeah.
For the whole movie. But, he's out there. He's not as reclusive as he used to be. And he's a bit more sarcastic in this movie.
Yeah. Which makes me like him more, because I love a sarcastic.
There's that scene where he and Alfred are at Wayne Manor, and Alfred is talking about security to repair the Batmobile. And Bruce is just like, security? Who let Vicky Vale into the Batcave? I'm sitting there working, and I turn around. There she is. Okay, Vic, come on in.
He's just not going to let that go. He's holding on to that, and nor should he.
Looking out for him.
But as the writer of the last movie, Sam Hamm, said, if I had been Bruce Wayne, that would have been Alfred's last day at Wayne Manor.
Basically.
Paul has been sharing quotes and clips this one. So Selena says, wow, the Batman, or is it just Batman? Your choice, of course. Batman walks away. Selena, well, that was brief, just like all the men in my life. All of her lines are fire.
The beginning of that line is a nod because in the comics, he's referred to as the Batman as well as just Batman.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that was just a little bit of a nod to that.
Oh, it's so good. And
I also love
this line too. The Penguin saying, I could really get into the mayor stuff. It's not just about power. It's about reaching out to people, touching people, groping people.
Yeah.
He's so gross. He's so gross throughout the entire, and he does it so well. So huge shout out to him. But.
Oh, yeah.
So in the iconic scene where Michelle Pfeiffer, Selena, is making her, she's trashing her apartment and making her costume, and she's like, which, by the way, what needle, like gauge of needle was she using to hand stitch latex together? Like, how was she doing that by hand? I mean, I know she was kind of dead at the time, but still. Anyways, but so she had this neon sign in her apartment that said "Hello there," and as she's walking by, she like smashes it, but she didn't smash the whole thing, and then later you see it says "Hell here." I love that. Like, I really want a neon pink sign that says "Hell here," or "Hello there" that flashes to "Hell here."
That would be, there you go. That would be iconic. Yeah. These are just, again, like and maybe they're not, but in my mind, these are like Tim Burton moments. Like, these are moments that would not be pulled off by any other director. Like, that is, when you're watching a Burton movie, you're just like, yep. Like, it's dark, but funny and weird. And
but that's how Warner Brothers enticed him to come back, because he didn't want to do the sequel.
No. Yeah, I don't think really any of them wanted to do a sequel, short of maybe Michelle Pfeiffer, who really wanted to play Catwoman. So she was it.
But Warner Brothers gave him total control over the film, and he came back, and we got this movie.
Yeah, I did in the rewatch really felt like, oh, this is the movie that cemented Tim Burton's aesthetic. Like, this is like every movie he's made since, you can tell is this.
Yeah.
And it's that juxtaposition of atmosphere and set and characters and like, this was, for me, this was his first, like even more than Beetlejuice. So it's like, we froze.
Yeah, you're back.
Yeah.
No, I think I would agree. I think Beetlejuice is close. This one definitely cements it for me. And then maybe like almost this one and Edward Scissorhands, I guess, is the other one that kind of stands out in my mind.
Because Edward Scissorhands came out right before this.
Oh, there we go. So I'm wrong about the date.
Yeah, because Tim Burton did Edward Scissorhands between Batman and Batman Returns.
Okay, that makes sense then. Because this.
Yeah, he mentioned it in the behind the scenes documentary on the Blu-ray.
Okay, that makes sense. So.
This one I find, like, when Nightmare Before Christmas comes after it, I was like, that makes sense. After seeing Batman Returns, I was like, all now, it's all the same now. Like, now I know who Tim Burton is. It's like, even just the music at the beginning, I was like, this is a Tim Burton film.
The music was brilliantly done too. Danny Elfman. I mean, not that we're surprised with a composer like that, but even just the beginning scene sets the whole mood.
Yeah. But like the theme song reused from the first movie was then rescored just around the time this movie came out for Batman the Animated Series, because that began airing in like September of '92, so like only like 3 months after Batman Returns came out. So Shirley Walker did that.
That's awesome.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Oh, well, my favorite fact about this movie, and I know Josh has probably like 1,000,001 more, but I literally laughed. I shouldn't have laughed out loud. This is kind of mean for me to have done this, but apparently, so if you remember in this movie, there's a moment where a monkey delivers a message from Batman to Penguin, which is insane in itself to just say. But I guess the monkey was so terrified of how Penguin looked in his costume that he bit him in the crotch.
Yeah.
I was just like, and then Danny DeVito was so obviously upset about this that he actually like protected himself going forward with a cup. He was like, no, we're not doing this scene again with the monkey.
And the crazy thing is too that before the camera started shooting, the monkey had been fine with Danny DeVito.
I think it's in costume, and he did change the pitch of his voice a bit, and then
no, but he was in costume before shooting, like because obviously he had to get the makeup on and everything before they started shooting. The monkey was fine, but as soon as the cameras started rolling, that's just
sensory overload.
Sensory overload.
Yeah.
All right, Josh. Well, I've been dying to ask you this. So we have everyone that joins us as a guest usually chooses the movie that they want to be on the show. So out of all of the movies, because I've seen your VHS collection, you have like a lot. What made it be? Why this specific movie out of everything you could have talked about? Is this an all top fave, or is there a different reason?
No. So what? There's kind of a two-part reason for this. First is that, well, you guys had already done Batman '89.
We did,
and this being the direct sequel, figured that was it.
Yeah, exactly.
And the second is because this is actually the first Batman movie I ever saw.
Awesome, I love it.
Even before the 1966 movie, based on the TV series. So
I do love Adam West Batman.
I do love Adam West Batman. I'm gonna say.
He asks Robin for the bat shark repellent. I still laugh every time I see that.
Some days you just can't get
the funniest thing.
Yeah. But I hadn't even seen that movie yet when I saw this movie. As I was telling you guys before we started recording, I was in the hospital, and my roommate's mom put it on for him and I. And this was my first Batman movie. You know, I'd watched the 60s TV show in reruns on YTV.
Yep.
Good old YTV.
Shout out
a Canadian moment. Yeah, a Canadian moment.
Yep. And so, I just picked this one for this episode because I'm like, okay, this was my first Batman movie, and you'd done the 89 movie already.
Yeah.
Perfect. This is a perfect reason. It always like warms my heart because every time we think through on like, we're constantly, even when we're like thinking through the concept for this show, it's like, we wanted to find out like why people like the movies that they like and what, and go on this kind of journey of like what our favorite movies are. And the answer is that it's so freaking hard. Like there's no favorite movie. If you have a favorite movie, I honestly think that like there might be something a little bit wrong with you because it's really hard to pick. Like mine changes on an hourly basis or is like, or is a giant group of them, or even when we list them out, I'm always like missing 3 or 4 that someone mentions and I'm like, oh, obviously those ones as well. So it's really hard. So I love that. I love that you wanted to do this one because I think we were certainly due for it.
Yeah. And I mean, because I watched so many movies on VHS growing up because I was in the hospital so much or stuck at home because I couldn't go to school because I just couldn't manage it with my health.
Yeah.
There's so many that I watched and it's hard to pick a favorite.
It is hard to pick a favorite. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
I love our friends at Cinema Psychos podcast are here hanging out with us, and they say that Batman Returns was the first Batman movie that they saw in theaters, and 89 Batman was the first VHS tape that they played to the point where it broke. Yeah, like those VHS tapes do not hold up when you get real obsessive.
No, I had a top loader VCR once, and I was really little at the time, and like it ate three of our tapes.
Yeah. We ended up getting, as Katie had mentioned previously, we had an external VHS tape rewinder because
Nat had the
with
cool
like
car.
the newer VHS players, like towards the end of VHS players, but the newer ones, if you rewound, they always ate the tapes.
Mm-hmm.
So then we had to get like, and it's shaped like a red Corvette. What makes me think of Prince when he goes back to Batman. There we go.
Well, the crazy thing too is that my parents actually had this one and 89 on VHS. I didn't know this until I was a teenager. And I actually had I had a TV VCR combo set in my bedroom that I got for my 16th birthday.
Oh.
And so I went downstairs to get Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace from them because my dad had that on VHS. And I happened to notice that he had Batman and Batman Returns.
And you're like, these are mine now.
No, that wasn't until after they got rid of their VHSs that I grabbed them.
Yeah.
I would have grabbed them anyways, but that's very
I grabbed them to watch them and then I returned them afterwards. Because I had Batman Forever. That's the one I owned on VHS. But,
I have to say, one of the reasons I love this movie, and it's not anything to do with me personally, but I like so many of my friends that are part of the LGBTQ plus S2 community. Like everybody says that Catwoman is a gay icon. I mean, first with Eartha Kitt because like
Catwoman is just an icon across.
And then Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah,
I do not know a drag queen, say between Gen X to like now, that has not done the Michelle Pfeiffer Catwoman costume.
Okay, so here's another amazing. There were so many great facts about this movie, but one of my I got to scroll down to like get it totally accurate. But people were so in love with Michelle Pfeiffer for all of the obvious reasons.
Yeah,
that
gorgeous,
they were actually they were stealing. Police became involved after the Catwoman posters were consistently stolen from bus stops. The bus stops ads were just being like taken and people were breaking like plexiglass to like pull them out. That apparently now if you're one of those jerks who stole one of those ads, they're actually worth like a ton of money right now because they were just like you couldn't even keep them up anywhere. All of the people were just stealing the posters
right from the bus stops.
From the bus stops, yeah.
You just unlocked a memory, Katie. Yeah.
Which
all
I
the
just
bus
think
stops would get shattered because like, people were stealing the Batman posters. Well, Catwoman, but yeah.
But it's funny though because like from all through 1992, Batman Returns was everywhere.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so my first few Star Trek comics, the backs of them were all just Batman Returns posters.
Oh, cool.
That's
I
cool.
love that.
Well, because they were published by DC Comics. So, of course, DC is going to slap on Batman posters and advertisements anywhere they could into their comics.
Well, it's funny like that we're like I'm looking at all the comments coming through from people who are talking about like their experiences with this movie and like how excited they were about it. So it is funny that like you were both talking earlier, and I think I'm not challenging that you're wrong about this, but it's funny that like this movie gets a bad rap for like not appealing to kids as much, so that they couldn't like market and sell as many action figures and whatever else. But then clearly everyone that's hanging out here saw it when they were little and are like still obsessed and love the.
I think the issue was like we didn't have the internet, so word didn't get around fast, right? That it's not really appropriate for kids.
Yeah, so we all saw it anyway. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it's like my parents are like, "Oh, the next Batman movie, the kids love that," and they like play it to these two kids. You know? Like,
but like even.
Yeah, it's like they rented it. We're sitting there, family movie night, and my dad's like, "This is so inappropriate," and my mom's like, whatever, we're already in. Let's just finish watching it. Well, whatever.
And I mean, even though I didn't watch it at home until I was a teenager, I still had some of the toys because, like, I had some of the McDonald's ones. I had 3 out of the 4 of them.
Yep.
But then I had hand-me-down figures from the son of one of my mom's friends from high school.
Oh wow!
Just gave me this box of Batman toys.
Yeah.
So like I had the Toy Biz Batman from the '89 movie, but then I had like the Penguin, the Commando Penguins, and weirdly enough, they released a Robin figure.
They did because they wanted Robin to be in this movie, and then they were like, "Oh no!" but they just kept
it's actually of the comic book character version Tim Drake from the '90s.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there is something about like, I mean, even today, I think like my kids have Batman toys, and I don't think they've ever read the comics or like they've probably seen like cartoons here and there, but it's not even. But it's just part of like.
I got your son
now.
the Batman, like that
it's Matt's
Batcave
fault.
when he was a kid. Like he also was like 3 years old and obsessed with Star Wars and his buddy Darth because he called him by like his his like military standing was apparently his first name. He's like my buddy Darth when he was 3, and I was like, that's 100% my fault.
Yeah, and Cinema Psychos is calling to this the sexual nature of the movie.
My Batman T-shirt
parents
on today.
Oh, you do? Nice. Perfect.
Yeah, I think it was more that's such a cool shirt. So for our listeners, Josh is wearing an original like
OG Batman.
It's like it's the black shirt with the yellow sort of oval around black bat. I think it wasn't, as Cinema Psychos pointed out, the sexual nature of the movie and the darkness and the violence was kind of, I don't know if it was so much viewers or kids that were upset by it, but
brands and
like backers, like McDonald's was one of the backers of the film,
like
and
there was
were
also
like, what the shit.
But like there were parents who had actually apparently had to take their kids out of the theater during viewings because the kids were screaming bloody murder because they were so scared of it.
Wow.
Well, yeah. I mean, I remember, I think we had mentioned this before, our friend, we all went to go see Jurassic Park with Katie's dad, and then we had to leave because one of our friends that came with us was a little bit younger than us, and she was hysterical. And we had to leave Jurassic Park.
I mean, but these movies were like, it's funny, like, if you compare, like, you know, kids movies or even like family movies now versus then. We talk a lot about this on this show that like there's a lot of these movies that like I find shocking to play for my kids because it like so much that was considered like totally fine for kids isn't at all anymore now.
No.
But then it's funny that this movie, which like, I think just because comic books and Batman were like in parents' minds at the time considered so like kid friendly, probably because the 60s show is so pure and simple and campy that it just wouldn't, wouldn't
like
be
the
considered
comics are
as
not
scary.
kid friendly.
Yeah,
No,
exactly. Yeah, but to parents
like,
though, I think comics
yeah.
are like a kid thing. Like
Yeah,
if
Yeah,
you're
the
but
not
like,
parents
into
didn't read the
don't
comics. They
read
just
them,
got their
no,
kids the comics.
yeah, but like,
Mistake.
it's also that cultural shift too, right? From the
Yeah.
80s to the 90s,
Yeah.
where parents were a bit more strict in
Yeah.
the 90s than they would have been in the 80s
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
as well. So there was
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
too.
True. I like Jake is saying he's got the same shirt as you. as
Nice.
Josh, so teamwork on that. I did love this fact, which I saw as well, that Marlon Wayans was actually cast as
Yes,
Robin in Batman
he
Returns,
was.
and they changed it. I didn't know he was still getting royalties though. Props to
Yeah.
him. That's incredible.
Good for
Yeah.
I love
you.
it. I love it. It would have. It's so funny. The Robin character is hard to not like to get right. I think Robin in almost every single one of these movies or TV shows always comes across as like a little ridiculous.
Yeah.
So it's funny that they made such a giant deal about Marlon not being Robin, partially because he was black, which they just need to suck up, but also because he was too funny. And I'm like, well, but like Robin like kind of needs to be a little bit like a keener and a little bit funny. He's a teenager, like.
And he's the contrast to Batman. Like, that was
he's supposed to be
the whole
like a
idea
funny
of the character.
Exactly.
Like Batman's trying to raise him. Like Batman's trying to be Robin's Alfred. Like he's trying to be his mentor and recognize the skill set in him. And because he was he was from a family of acrobats in the circus. Because it's a comic book, but
Black goo from Penguin doesn't sell Happy Meals, I guess.
Yeah. No, it does not.
No, it does not.
No.
It's not a good
Imagine they
chicken
came out
nugget
with black
dipping
ketchup
sauce.
for the release of the movie.
Yeah.
You remember in the 90s when they came out with purple and green ketchup and that did not sell?
That did not work.
No.
That did not work out well at
I have
all.
to give it to McDonald's. They were right. The black goo would not have sold.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, exactly. But no, this was such a weird movie for the time because like Batman was everywhere in the 90s because of this movie, the 89 movie, but then the animated shows that were out at the time with like Batman the Animated Series.
Mm-hmm.
And
Adam West was on reruns. Like it was syndicated
Yeah.
We're
on
all
reruns
watching
at
Adam
the
West
time,
too.
too. So,
like watching the Adam West show, it was on at 5:00 on YTV.
Yep.
And then starting for a year in 1993, they paired it with Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
The perfect combination. I totally
Yeah.
watched the crap out of all of those.
Yeah. And so, like, for me, in the hospital, I had Batman, Power Rangers, the local news channel for my parents, and then right after that, Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Yep.
Yeah.
We lived
That's
the
a
same
pretty
childhood.
good lineup,
Yeah,
I have to say.
Yeah.
Like,
I wasn't in the hospital, but I was definitely watching all of those. Oh man. Every time I think of the Adam West one, the only thing I can ever think of is Robin saying, "Holy squash strawberries, Batman, are we ever in a jam?"
Well, they also
Just so good.
they made a nod to that in Batman Forever when they actually got Robin into the movies.
Yeah.
Which I like. People hated that movie. Was that the one that they hated, or what was?
No,
what's the
Batman
one
and
with-
Robin.
They don't like
Batman and
Batman and
Robin.
Robin because that one,
Right.
Batman and Robin had
1997.
Batgirl, wasn't it, as well in
But-
that one? And
Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
that was
people
Alicia
don't like
Silverstone.
women, we know, but it was campier.
it was
Okay.
way campier. Yeah.
But I didn't realize, like, everybody hated it because it wasn't as serious as the previous movies. And I was
No.
like, but isn't it supposed to be this campy? Like, this is hilarious.
That's what
It was
Warner Brothers-
hilarious. It was so
Yeah.
well done. And
That's
it's
what
one of
Warner
my
Brothers
favorite
wanted.
rewatches.
because of this movie.
Yeah.
Like they're
Yeah.
just like, no, we
But
can't.
I'm like, it's an homage to West. And people
Yeah.
were like, oh, it's terrible. It's like, it's supposed to be this bad,
Yeah.
guys. That's the point. So, like,
That's
you haven't seen Adam West on reruns on YTV and it's showing. Like,
yeah,
Yeah.
I loved it. But totally different vibe. Not
Yeah.
Tim Burton.
no,
But even I like again, like even Tim Burton, like these movies are all, I guess, to like pull in together. Like if we look at all of the Batmen across all these different movies and TV shows, like it's all still like to some level comical and outrageous and like not of this world and bigger than life and ridiculous. And like honestly, that is why to counter it, like that's almost in some ways why like the Marvel universe that we have right now is so popular, is that they just leaned right into that and they built this like escapism world that people want to fall into, and it's like it's big and it's crazy and it's got humor in it and it's got but it's got action and I think like I feel like Batman has almost moved away from that, and then Marvel's movies have moved way more into it. And so I wish that we would get back to this, this kind of level of Batman where it's both funny and scary and ridiculous and outrageous and over the top, because I think that's what makes it interesting. Like I don't want to live in real life.
I have to say though, I really did enjoy Ben Affleck's old angry Batman, which was canonically correct.
I have not seen that one yet, so I can't comment.
Don't like it's not worth it. Like, but him as old angry Batman was actually so well done and so perfect. Yeah. But that was the only good thing in the movie. So those movies, like, I'm sorry for everybody who likes the Zack Snyder movies.
I
like, yes, he made Fast Zombies and Dawn of the Dead, or he was at least a part of the movie. Like the remake of Dawn of the Dead. You know the one with Sarah Polley that we love? Mm-hmm. So Zack Snyder was attached to that project. So that I will give him credit for. Everything else, I'm sorry, dude.
Yeah,
you need a heavy edit.
I went to see Man of Steel and Batman v Superman in theaters. I'm like, why did I do that?
Yeah.
Okay, so question to the Tater Tots and Josh. Who is your favorite Batman?
Oh, favorite.
No judgment.
No judgment.
No judgment. Okay. Even if it's Christian Bale. No judgment.
I mean, quiet judgment, but no out loud judgment.
when I was younger, it was obviously Adam West. Because Adam West. Yeah. But I have two. This is split animated and live action. Mm-hmm. Live action, Michael Keaton.
Yep. Good choice.
Just because it's Michael Keaton and he's great. And then Kevin Conroy as the voice of Batman in Batman the Animated Series. And
yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
It's a very good series. I watch that with my brother all the time.
Yeah, I have the complete series on DVD, so I'm
solid choice.
I
I'm seeing
put
a lot
on an
of
episode every once in a while.
Adam West, Robert Pattinson. Some props for Robert Pattinson.
He actually, you know what? Edward, though sparkly, was very good in his Batman movie.
He wasn't sparkly as Batman.
He wasn't sparkly as Batman. No, but he actually did it was a very good one. I was pleasantly surprised rewatching that movie. I was like, oh shit, it's actually really good. I was expecting it to be coming out of Zack Snyder that and I know Joss Whedon is technically evil, but he couldn't save it. And so I was expecting nothing. And then I was like, shit, it's good.
Well, a lot of West and Keaton, Jake says when they were little, Val Kilmer, and now Keaton, Michael Keaton.
Oh yeah.
I did. It's so mine are probably West and Keaton. Probably tied because they're just so different that I like in my mind they're like but I'm with Jake. I did love a Val Kilmer until pretty recently. There's something about him that I will say that like I probably went through, I don't feel this way anymore, but I went through a moment where I do love George Clooney. So I don't know if I love George Clooney as Batman, but like seeing him initially as Batman, I was just like, that's George Clooney and he's so handsome.
We'll have to rewatch the movie because it's actually much funnier than people at the time gave it credit for.
Right. We'll continue it on. We'll slip it.
I think people lost the plot on it, but obviously my favorite is Keaton. And shout out to Seth Rogen in his movie. I can't remember what it's called with what's the High School Musical guy where they're arguing. It's like, I'm Batman. No, I'm Batman.
Oh,
I'm Batman.
that is
Neighbors.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, brain. I'm like, I know my beloved Canadian comedian, actor, writer. But
Yep.
and I'm completely Seth in that argument. It's like definitely Keaton. Though I appreciate every Batman
Yeah,
except
because they're
for
all
Bale.
different.
And it's not even that Christian Bale did a bad job. He obviously did not. It's just it was his press tour about it. He's like, I never read any of the comics, couldn't care less. I'm like,
I hate that.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're lucky your press tour didn't kill the movie. But anyways.
See, Val's on the same page with me. George Clooney's extremely handsome. And of course, Val has seen him in person
Of
because
course.
Val, so.
Val, you're my hero.
Zac Efron. Wow, even I had a moment, and I have a cutout of him in my attic, so this is embarrassing on a variety of levels.
Oops, Zac Efron. Thank
Zac
you,
Efron.
Charlie.
Thank you. Zac Efron should be Batman. Maybe he could be Batman next.
No, Zac Efron.
No.
Pattinson is doing a fine job. There should be another one coming out.
I do love this.
excited
I
to
do
see
love
it.
this quote. Alfred calls him Sparkles. Crime calls him Vengeance. You are on fire today. I assume it's Brian behind the chat, but you're on fire today. You win,
that
Brian.
is so funny.
Well, get ready because
great.
we're at the hour. So drop in your potatoes or bats or whatever you want to rate this in. Stars if you're boring, but whatever you want to rate this in. If you are not hanging out with us and you're catching us in the replay or on the podcast listening, you'll have to just swing over to VHSClubPod.com and leave us a voicemail and let us know what you think, or send us an email or get in touch another way. We care deeply about everyone's feelings and reactions to all of these movies. And if you haven't yet, I will take a moment to plug our endless, not even endless, Nat's really, you're failing at this now because only 181 movies on our must-watch list. And Paul tells me that there are
like
thousands
3 years.
that have been released. I've been updating it. And you want to know what's funny about our must-watch list? I've been updating it after every episode that we do so that I drop like the link in and what our rating is and like all the information. And almost none of the movies that we have reviewed are on your list. Like really obvious ones are just not there at all. Like I don't even think Dirty Dancing was like on like iconic movies are just so the original. We should actually at some point post the original list so we can compare like what Nat wanted us to do and how we just blatantly did not listen.
It was just a stepping stone. It wasn't a set list. It was like, I'm going to have a glass of wine and think of a list that my like neurospicy brain will come up with. Like it is. And if you put it up in my original order, I would love for you guys to comment on how you thought I got from point A to point B from movie to movie.
We'll release it.
Because the list is actually put out like how my brain thought of them chronologically. Which there
are like notes next to some of them too. So we'll release the original,
I put notes.
The original list for you. Just enjoy. It's less than 181 because I feel like we've done. This is episode, I think, 63. So we've done basically 60 movies that Nat didn't even have on the list. I think Empire Records is the only one that was on your list.
No.
Oh, no, Labyrinth would have been too. Labyrinth would have been too.
Yes, and so would have Pump Up the Volume.
True.
And That Thing You Do.
True. Okay, so maybe like...
You Can't Hardly Wait was one of the early ones.
True,
so.
yeah.
True. That was probably on the list also.
I don't know. It was
10 Things I Hate About You, that was on the list.
All right,
See,
maybe.
Now I'm listing like half our episodes.
I'm going to do some...
whatever.
I'm going to do some math, and I bet you.
No, but I think what's exciting is the list is a stepping stone, but the live studio audience and people who write into us who are listening later that give us suggestions and we're like, let's do it. I didn't think of that one. The list is like a backup plan for like if I forgot to do my homework kind of thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes people throw us. So we were excited to do Batman Returns, but we are bringing Josh back to do an episode just on VHS, which I'm really excited about. So that got rescheduled. So you'll see it on our schedule coming up. We're really looking forward to that one. And then we have another special guest on. We're doing the mini series, which is 100% not on our list. So we're stretching our VHS wings. Can you have? I think you can have VHS wings.
We've done some mini series. We did Pride and Prejudice.
We did Pride and Prejudice. Yeah.
The real P&P.
There are no other Pride and Prejudice. There are no other Pride and Prejudice movies. It's just that one. All right. Well, we could be here all night. So let's swing over. Okay, Josh, what would you have rated this without any input from us?
for Christian Taters.
4 Christian Taters. All right, now what are you at?
Same 4. Just because I actually liked the original Batman, like 89, better.
Oh, good question.
There was no Prince in this one, and
Yeah.
I really enjoyed Prince in the other one.
Yeah.
And I think as a kid, I was like emotionally let down. No Prince or Vicky Vale. So for my childhood chagrin of it all, 4 peanuts, not 5.
See, I think I liked this one better than the original 89 Batman.
Nice.
And I think you would have liked this one better because apparently in the facts they were going to have Bowie in this movie, and they just
that would have changed everything.
It would have been like Nat's favorite movie. No other options. 8 out of 10 angry parents groups / angry McDonald's executives. Your own rating system as usual, Brian. Okay, 8 out of 10. We'll give you 8 out of 10. I won't do the math conversion. Jake is at 4 bats. Paul is at 4 bats. You guys must know us really well because I was also 4 Christian taters / bats / angry parents groups and McDonald's executives. Sometimes there aren't the right, emoji out there where there really should be like an angry parent emoji. I feel like we're missing the opportunity. This one was so fun. Thank you so much, Josh. You have been just welcome. Like the best listener, and then now you're also a great guest. So I'm excited now to have you back with all of your VHS knowledge.
That's gonna be awesome to do.
Val, is this bacon? 3 bacons?
Yeah.
Love it.
3 bacons. I think that's absolutely incredible. Well,
yes, Cherie is with me about Kim Basinger. She did have the best scream ever. I loved it. That's why it's really her screaming. That's why I like the first movie better.
She
killed it.
She's like a much more traditional, like Catwoman is like, you don't really want anyone to be with.
I'm not dissing Michelle Pfeiffer's performance. Like her going unhinged was magical to watch. Magical. Like I don't believe she didn't go insane filming this movie. There's no way she didn't have a lot of therapy later.
Penguin.
So she was actually in the comics before she auditioned for the role. So
that checks out.
Yeah.
The opposite of Christian Bale.
Yeah.
She did her homework. Love her. She's so good.
Yeah. And she'd grown up watching the Adam West series too. So
see, it makes a difference. The level of like passion for it comes through. I think it does make a difference.
And props to Tim Burton and Michael Keaton for making her the focus of the movie.
Yeah.
Which is
it's honestly, comic books are a male-dominated industry as this film, and to put her front and forward, that's pretty badass. That's the real Batman.
Yeah. And especially, I mean, even more impressive given the fact that Michelle Pfeiffer was Michael Keaton's ex-girlfriend at that point too. Yeah. So it was certainly there could have been some bad blood, and he's still cut a bunch of his lines and clearly helped to support her being in the role. She actually wasn't in
professional.
Wasn't in Batman 89 because of issues between the two of with the two of them, and he was trying to get back together with his ex-wife, and there was a whole bunch of baggage. So I love that. I love that she was in this one. I love that she I think she killed it with the role, and I do like that it wasn't a traditional sequel. It was a continuation in the world, but not necessarily just didn't pick up right where the last one dropped off. Didn't have all the same actors. I do like that it's just in the same world without being really formulaic sequel, which
it kind of follows in that tradition of The Empire Strikes Back, which also wasn't a direct sequel to Star Wars.
Yep.
Exactly.
This has been so much fun. Well, if you love this show, which we hope you do, you should hang out with us most Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern on YouTube for our live recording. Or you could always find us at the VHSClubPod.com, where you can leave voicemails and see our movie list and see Nat's actual movie list when we get her updated, and all of the other information and updates that we have there. You can also find us across all of the different social media channels. We've been trying to be better about that. So get on over there and support us as we make our efforts in sharing posts. And if you follow Josh, and you can find his blog information in the show notes or in the description, wherever you're watching or listening. He's got an incredible movie review blog, so it's worth reading and checking out.
Great writer.
Yeah. And he also shares, he's been sharing, so you can get a sneak peek, he's been sharing some of his VHS collection on Instagram. So we'll have to drop that link as well later so that you can take a look at all of the VHS. I've been joining more and more like Facebook groups that are like VHS collectors, and it's been so fun watching like what people share and what they're arguing about and what they're talking about. I think it's absolutely fantastic. So thank you for being here. Thanks to all the tater tots. And we'll see you, Josh, in the next episode, and we'll see you for the VHS episode. So we're excited to be hanging out again soon. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Bye. We'll see you next time.